Well, let's get started. We have a lot to cover, so thank you so much for being here. Today's Farm to School Purchasing Grant webinar. My name is Claire Finnerty, and I am the Farm to School Purchasing Grant Specialist with the Washington State Department of Agriculture's Farm to School program. This webinar is for eligible applicants and partners in Farm to School. The webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording and presentation slides will be posted to the Purchasing Grant website. There will be time for questions at the end of the presentation. You may also type your questions into the chat box, which will be monitored throughout the presentation. So I wanted to start by introducing the Washington State Department of Agriculture. Our mission is to support the viability and vitality of agriculture while protecting consumers, public health, and the environment. Our regional markets program specifically supports small farmers who sell directly to their customers, including schools and childcare centers. By being a part of this grant and choosing to buy local, you can make a huge difference in the livelihoods of small farmers in your community. WSDA's Farm to School program promotes farm to school connections and is dedicated to fostering relationships between schools and agricultural producers in Washington State. We're here to support you in your farm to school connections with the training and resources listed above, and we also provide the purchasing grants, which is why we're here today. As you can see, we have a long agenda for today's call. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat and we will answer them at the end. We want to thank OSPI for their support in grant administration for the first two rounds of the grant. In round two of the 2023-2025 biennium, WSDA is offering $300,000 in farm to school purchasing grants from federal COVID recovery funds and from state general funds. We're grateful to the longtime partners and advocates who have been pushing for this investment for many years. We know one of the biggest barriers to farm to school purchasing is limited budgets, which is why we're so excited to be able to offer this grant. We hope these grants will help accomplish WSDA's dual goals of expanding opportunities for farmers and increasing access to healthy Washington-grown food for youth in our state. This is a competitive reimbursement grant, meaning that grantees must pay for products before requesting reimbursement. A few of the key goals of the purchasing grant are to support the development and sustainability of farm-to-child nutrition program efforts, to increase the amount and variety of local foods served in child nutrition programs, and to increase purchasing from small, mid-size, socially disadvantaged, beginning, limited resource women and veteran farmers and ranchers. There are 3 program types that you can apply for: school meals, child care meals, and summer meals. School districts are welcome to apply for all 3. Please note that the school meals grant funds cannot be used for SFSP or SSO. You must apply to the summer meals grant to use funding in the summer. Child care organizations do not need to apply for summer meals because we know childcare meals are year-round and we have calculated your maximum funding request accordingly. Also noting that anywhere you see a star in this presentation, this is a change from last year's grant program as well as round 1. So we are currently in round 2 of the 2023-2025 biennium. This application opened on March 4th and closes April 15th, which is now less than a month away. So put that in your calendars. The awards will be announced in June, and then the funding period for this grant is July 1st all the way through June of 2025. So who is eligible to apply? For the school meals application, tribal schools are eligible and organizations that operate an SLP. For the childcare meals application, tribal early learning centers are eligible and organizations that operate CACFP. That does not include adult care food programs or at-risk after-school meal programs. If you are a family daycare home provider and you have a small family daycare home practice that serves about 6 to 12 kids, you're not eligible to apply. You would have to speak with your sponsor for family daycare who is eligible to apply on your behalf. For the summer meals application, tribal schools are eligible and organizations that operate SFSP and SSO. This is the first time we will be offering this grant to community SFSP operators. So that could be churches or food banks, nonprofits that operate summer meals programs. So it is important to note that upon award, grantees will be required to have a statewide vendor number and a unique entity identifier number in sam.gov. These are requirements for awarded grantees and are not required during the application process. However, we do recommend obtaining the numbers as soon as you can so as not to delay payment if you're awarded. So the statewide vendor payee number is required in order to receive reimbursement payments from WSDA through the statewide vendor system via check or electronic funds transfer. You can contact your business office to find out if your organization has a statewide vendor number and for help requesting one. It is free to request a statewide vendor number, and this link, once you get these slides, will take you to further information. Registering for a UEI number in sam.gov is also a requirement of the grant. This helps us to determine if your entity can receive federal funds and is not currently suspended or debarred. So I've included the link here as well, where you can create an account and get more details about the application. So how much can you apply for? If you are a school applying for the school meals program and you are small, that means you served less than 20,000 lunches in October of 2023, then your maximum funding request is $24,000. If you served more than 20,000 lunches in October of 2023, then you'll use this formula. So for example, if you had 50,000 lunches served in October of 2023, you'd multiply by 10 and then 0.12 to get $60,000 as your maximum funding request. Same concept with childcare meals. If you're a small program that serves less than 4,000 lunches, your maximum funding request is $6,000. But if you served more than that, you would follow this formula. So as an example, if you served 6,000 lunches, then you'd be eligible for up to $8,640. And then finally, most summer meals will be in the small category, less than 4,000 lunches in July of 2023. So you would be eligible for $1,000. But if you are a large program, again, you'd follow this specific formula. to see how much your maximum funding request is. So just so you know, this calculation is in 2 different spots in the application. So you'll have a chance to triple check it. But if you wanted to run it by us, feel free to reach out. We'll have our email at the end. And we can just double check for you that you have the correct number. Okay, so what kinds of foods can you buy with these funds? You could purchase whole and minimally processed fruits, vegetables, herbs, meat, seafood, legumes, grains, any food that is 100% grown, raised, caught, or foraged in Washington state. So minimally processed could include refrigerating, slicing, dicing, washing, or packaging. And it's important to remember that you can define local in many ways, but for the purpose of this grant, local is defined as grown, raised, caught, or foraged within Washington state. In terms of fully processed foods, such as bread products or dairy, the primary ingredient, which is the largest ingredient by weight or volume, must be 100% grown in Washington. For example, yogurt containing milk from cows 100% raised in Washington, or pizza dough containing flour from wheat grown 100% in Washington. This is a change from last year when we required 51% of the ingredients to be from Washington, meaning that not all products approved last year will qualify. We did make this change to ensure that grant funds are being spent on Washington grown foods and increase purchasing from small farms. We have also made this change to diversify products and encourage grantees to purchase items not already purchased on a regular basis. We like to say these are special funds for special foods. So every dollar you spend has value and can support a resilient local food system. Upon award, it will be your responsibility to determine and ensure that the products you request for reimbursement are eligible and meet the requirements. So this new form is the Washington Grown Food Product Verification Form. It's on our website if you would like to get a head start and reach out to potential vendors. Eligible food purchases can be purchased from a variety of direct and indirect sources. So direct options include from a farmer, rancher, or fishery, from a farmer's market or farm stand, which of course, if the farm stand has avocados that were grown in California, that would not be eligible for this grant. And you're also able to spend your funds on food grown in your school garden or farm. We highly encourage buying products directly from Washington farmers and food producers, but you may also purchase Washington grown foods from grocery stores and other retailers, as well as your prime produce or broadline distributor. If you are purchasing from an indirect source, be sure that the product or vendor provides information about the original farm source. Upon award, you'll need to demonstrate that all of the products you purchased were grown in Washington. So supporting documentation might include a product label, receipts, and invoices with the farm name and address. As a reminder, grantees must follow all applicable federal and state procurement rules and regulations when purchasing food for reimbursement with grant funds. The Farm to School Purchasing Grant may also be used to cover non-food costs. in addition to direct food purchases. So non-food costs must support directly the development and sustainability of farm-to-school efforts to purchase and promote foods grown and raised in Washington State. So applicants may request up to 25% of their total requested amount on allowable non-food costs, such as equipment, materials, and supplies. For example, you could request a freezer to store additional meat or frozen fruit for year-round use. You could request a salad bar to promote locally grown greens and produce, or even a food processor to prep local whole produce into sliced and diced forms. We also have lots of examples in our grant guidelines, which are on our website. Other things that are available to request are staff time to administer the grant, or increased kitchen staff time to process local whole foods. Transportation costs, like delivery fees or mileage to pick up food from a farm, and travel costs to farm-to-school trainings. For the application, you will need to be specific with the non-food cost you're requesting. During the application review, the non-food costs will be reviewed and approved or not approved. If changes occur during the grant period and you want to purchase something different, you would need to request this change in writing before purchasing a different item. Expenses that are ineligible will not be approved for award. So this includes anything that is not grown in Washington, any purchases made before or after the grant program. You are not allowed to purchase milk with this grant, and that's because we want to encourage new vendor relationships with the diversity of Washington farms and incorporate new products beyond what is already commonly purchased. You are also not able to utilize other fund sources or any non-food costs that do not directly support the development and sustainability of farm-to-school efforts. So how do you apply? First, we highly recommend you check out the grant guidelines and the sample grant beneficiary agreement. That's our contract. So you know what you're getting into and you understand the administrative lift that it takes to manage this grant. You have already done number 2. You're here at the application webinar, so that's great. We will also have weekly office hours. This is actually meant to say 2 to 3 p.m. on Wednesdays, as well as the morning of the due date if you want to come and ask questions. If you're struggling with the grant portal, feel free to watch this how to apply video where I walk through the grant portal step by step, as well as a visual how to apply flowchart. Once you're ready to apply, you would create an account in the application portal, complete the profile section, and complete the application. If you're applying to multiple programs, you would go through the application for each of those. And a major part of the application is the food purchasing plan, which is an Excel spreadsheet that you download and re-upload to the grant portal. Then if you have any non-food costs, you would fill that section out with your budget. And then finally, click the submit button by the due date of April 15th at 5 p.m. So now we're going to walk through the Wise Hive application portal to show you what that looks like. This is the link to get there. You would create an account by clicking sign up. enter your email and create a password. It's important to note that there's only one account login per application, so you'll have to decide which person in your organization that would be best to sit with. And if you're applying for multiple program types, it usually makes sense to only have one account and then fill out one profile and multiple applications. But if for some reason you have different people managing different programs, you can create different accounts. So this is what the Wise Hive grant portal looks like. So I just wanted to point out here in the top right-hand corner is this globe. So the website can be translated into 8 languages. So that's always available. Again, if you're new, you would click sign up here. If you're returning because you are not awarded in round 1, then you can log in with the same email and password, and your profile will stay, but you'll have to fill out a new application. Once you log in, this is your home page. You will create a profile to get started. One important thing in the profile is the administrative financial capability and accounting systems assessment. So this assessment helps us determine your level of risk, and depending on your level of risk will change your reporting and monitoring requirements if you are awarded, but all grantees are subject to random desk review. Once you have finished your profile, you'll always have a chance to go back and edit it. As I mentioned, if you already applied in round 1, you'll want to go in and double check that everything is still the same or make some edits to your profile. Once you've completed the profile, this new box will pop up, and this is where you'll click to get started on your application. So this is your application intake page. You'll get started by clicking Edit in the application section. Your first question will be, which program are you applying for? So if you're applying to multiple, just choose one of the programs here: school meals, childcare meals, or summer meals. And keep that here. I will show you at the end how to add a second application. One question I wanted to highlight is this question: how does your organization handle food service? So if you answer food service management company, then you do have a couple extra questions. So we just need to know, how are you working with your food service management company to incorporate more local foods within your existing contract? And also, we request a letter of commitment to ensure that they're on board with this grant. So just the headers, we're going to chat about the student and community needs section is mostly numeric answers like what's your free and reduced price meal eligibility, things like that. And then you'll head into your project narrative section and have multiple questions that are a maximum word count of 200 words. After the narrative questions, you will move down to the budget proposal section. So you'll be able to enter your total lunch count, which auto-populates your maximum funding request, and this is your non-food cost, so it's just 25% of this number. It is not in addition to this number, it's just a part. So this was the one place that I mentioned does the automatic calculation for you. The next section is your food purchasing plan. So this is an Excel spreadsheet that you will download. And the second tab looks like this. This is the second place that you have a chance to utilize a calculator to double check what your maximum funding request is. You will enter the lunch count here, and then you'll see your answer populate here. Then you'll see the food purchasing plan. This is the heart of this Excel spreadsheet. So what you'll do here is work through what products you would like to purchase if you are awarded. So be specific. Give us information about the product, the variety, and the form that it's coming in, as well as make sure you are looking into the seasonality of the products. So this is what our reviewers will be checking for, is that the expected purchase months is in line with when you can purchase these items in Washington. Next, you will think about your menu and how much you need of each item. You'll estimate cost per unit by doing research on your past purchases or looking into different market values. And then this last column does the calculation for you, and you'll see at the bottom your total come up. So again, make sure that your total makes sense for your maximum funding request, and be sure that you are downloading this round 2 version. Should only have these 3 tabs. We are no longer using the one that has 4 tabs. So that's in Excel. You would save your Excel spreadsheet and then upload it here. And just copy your total requested food cost here. Next, you'll come upon this section related to non-food costs. So if you are not requesting non-food costs, you can go ahead and skip this section. If you are, you're going to want to save your application and head out to the non-food cost section. So you'll be back in this application intake stage, and you'll have to open the non-food cost budget section. This is what it looks like. Please read all of the directions so you know what you're getting into. And for each unique non-food item, you'll create a new item. You'll have to answer questions about the category, the item name, how this purchase is going to support your increasing local foods, how you came up with the price and the total price. Again, you'll mark that complete and then keep adding new items as you need to. That'll take you back to this application intake section. Once you're totally finished with all your non-food costs, you can go back to the application, and the total will actually auto-populate for you. So double check that that's the correct number. And then you will see the requested percentage. So this percentage must be 25% maximum. So anything less than 25% is okay. And finally, you'll see the total requested funding amount. So this is just non-food plus food here. And you'll also need to make sure that this funding amount is less than or equal to your maximum funding request. Finally, at the end of the application, you will have attestations and certifications. So make sure whoever is authorized to do this for your school district or organization does so and signs their name. Once you mark the application complete and you're ready to go, there's actually one more step that's very important, is the submit button. As you can see, it's not within this application step. It's actually in the application intake step. So if you don't click this button, we will not consider you for award. So be sure to hit this submit button. Okay, once you're finished, this is back at the home page, and you'll see that this application card has been created. If you are an organization that is applying to multiple programs, school meals, childcare meals, summer meals, you would just click here and start that whole process over again. So that was WiseHive. If you have any questions about how to use that, we do have the how to apply video, or feel free to get in contact and ask us any questions you have. So as a reminder, this is a competitive grant and applications will be evaluated across the following equally weighted criteria. For school meals and childcare meals, you'll be evaluated on 3 different sections: student and community need, support for grant purpose, and then achievability. For summer meals, we don't include student and community need because we already know that summer meals meets the needs of high need communities. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each of those sections. Student and community needs includes consideration of free and reduced price meal eligibility rate, whether or not you're a tribal program, your child food insecurity rate for the county, and use of best practices to increase food access. This would include things like breakfast after the bell program, at-risk after-school meals or a snack program, and community eligibility program. Next is support for grant purpose. So is your project expanding purchasing of Washington-grown foods? And is your project purchasing from small farms directly? Are you engaging your students in food, nutrition, and agriculture education? And are you incorporating culturally relevant foods that are meeting the needs of your population? And then finally, how achievable is the project that you're proposing? Reviewers will look for your support from staff and community partners. They'll look at your budget. Is it reasonable and appropriate for the scope and timeline of the project? Are your strategies clear for incorporating Washington-grown foods? And are the products that you're requesting in the right season, and are they available at the quantities that you're needing? So all those 3 evaluation criteria are what reviewers are looking for in your application, in your non-food, and in your food purchasing plan. So I wanted to give an overview of the grant application and award process. So the application closes April 15th. We will begin reviewing in May. And then there is something called an application complaint process. So if someone wanted to share feedback on the application, they would need to do so by April 15th. And if an organization is not awarded, they are able to protest within 3 days of the announcement of successful applicants. You should expect to hear back from us in June about whether or not you were awarded and to sign grant agreements. And then July 1st, when the grant begins, you would be required to submit monthly reports requesting reimbursement or letting us know how you are doing with your budget. There are 3 reports, which are surveys that are due throughout the grant timeline. So those are baseline, midterm, and final surveys. And then for record keeping, you would have to keep your records from the beginning of the grant all the way to 6 years past the end of the grant. And as I mentioned before, there are random desk reviews and other monitoring requirements that will happen during the grant period. All right, so pre-application tips. What can you do to get ready in the next month before the deadline? So you can engage your staff, students, and community. Find out what new foods and recipes they want to try and discuss educational and other engagement activities. We do have our Farm to School Toolkit tips for getting started if you wanted to check those out. Next, consider what local foods you want to buy next school year. Get started by exploring our Washington seasonality charts that show the months when fruits and vegetables are available in Washington. You can also consider grains, eggs, meat, dairy, mushrooms, honey, and other products that are available year-round. Third, you can estimate how much local food you plan to buy. So how many different local foods will you serve? How often will you serve them? In what way? Is it going to be on your salad bar, as a veggie side? Are you going to purchase expensive products that like meat and just focus on meat? Or are you going to get a range of lots of different produce? Think about that. So try to estimate quantities needed for each item and when you plan to serve them. Next, find sources and prices. So we have lots of different resources for finding different sources and prices, one of them being the Washington Food and Farm Finder. So they have a wholesale database where you can type in your zip code, type in the products, and look at a map to see what farmers are in your area and what kind of products they have available. So that's the Washington Food and Farm Finder. Next, you can connect with the Washington State Farm to School Network. So this is a great place to connect and share ideas. There may even be support, people who can support you in writing your application or sharing, doing kind of a peer editing of applications. So that's a great place to start and really have peer-to-peer connections. And then finally, OSPI, we work very closely with, and they have a Farm to Child Nutrition Program website that has lots of different resources specific to farm to school, farm to summer, farm to CACFP. So you can check out their promotional tools and activities as well. You might also want to consider a Harvest of the Month program, seasonal promotions, or special events. So you don't need to serve local foods daily or even weekly. It's okay to start small and learn as you grow. So one more time, I wanted to remind you that we will have weekly office hours. That's beginning tomorrow afternoon and Wednesdays 2 to 3. And then a final last minute Monday morning of the deadline, April 15th, if you need to check in on any technical issues. If you can't make those office hours, or if you need one-on-one support, please reach out to us at WSDA. or OSPI. So if you're a school district, reach out to Nicole Garden for support. And if you're summer or CACFP, you can reach out to Adriana. One thing I did want to mention is that this is my last week in this position. So you will actually want to reach out to Annette for support going forward, and you will get to know the person in this position who's next. All right, so we have time for questions. Feel free to enter your questions into the chat or unmute yourself. I would be happy to answer them. And I don't see any questions throughout, so I will just wait to see if anyone has any more questions.
Claire, this is Pamela from the city of Seattle. And I have a question about the vendor that we're going to be using. So in the past 2 years, we've been beating the process. So as soon as we got your grant, we were beating our process out so we can get vendors. And we're doing the same this year. As soon, if we get awarded, we will put a bidding process so that we can procure 2 or 3 vendors to see which one we want to work with. So I'm just wondering if the answers in the application should be based on what we did last year and the previous year, or should I just say, we're making a projection that we will buy 100 pounds of apples based on these vendors that we know that they're partnering with the small farmers and BIPOC farmers. I don't know, should I base it off based on the information from last year, based on my experience, or just the projection that you think we could make?
That's a great question. So there is a question about your experience. So you in that question, you can go into detail about how you were a grantee last year and your project. I would definitely recommend going into detail and describing your project and how that went. The questions focus on how you relate to your vendors, so you can share how you got to be working with Friendly last time. And then there are also questions about how will you in the future for this grant make those connections with your vendor. So again, as much in detail as possible, that these are the types of producers you're looking for. This is our mission. This is our goal. And you can describe the bidding process and say what you're looking for. And then in your food purchasing plan, that would be where you want to project. So what are the foods that you are asking for in your bidding process? It might not be, the food purchasing plan doesn't have to be exactly what you end up getting, but as much as you can project and plan for the future and provide examples will be helpful. And even if you have, I know you're going through the bidding process, but if you have, or you will after, if you're awarded, if you have names of vendors so that you are describing more specifically for a vendor that, or for a reviewer to know that you've thought this out and you have a plan. That's what they're looking for, is again, the 3 buckets of evaluation criteria is that would be important for reviewers. Achievability. So how are you describing that you know that this is going to get done if you are awarded? And then support for grant purpose. So like you said, who are you purchasing from? What are the requirements you're looking for? You mentioned BIPOC farmers. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I see another question in the chat. Is the free and reduced rubric always going to be weighted heavily? School districts with a lower free and reduced eligibility do not get as much funding as other districts. In order to continue with farm to school, districts in financial crisis will not have the money to purchase local without a grant. Thank you for highlighting that concern, Elaine. We're always looking to receive feedback. So I know we've talked about this with you all last grant round. And as of this current round, we have the same rubric. And so student and community need is going to stay as 1/3 of the weight of the scoring. So student and community need is 1/3 out of grant support for grant, and achievability are the other 2/3. And this is something that we have received feedback from our stakeholders, which include the emergency food world and food security advocates. So this is something that we have decided to wait at that level. And in the future, there's potential for change, but at this current round, it'll be the same weight as in round 1. Okay, so Danielle says, how soon will we have access to this recording to watch again? As soon as I can get it uploaded. So probably I would say next week, and you'll receive an email if you registered, which you did because you're here. So I would say about a week. Patrick, you are from Bellingham, is that correct? If we are already in round 1, do we need to apply again? So so if you are in round 1, if you have whatever program you have, whichever grant you have, that is the funding from now until the end of June of 2025. However, if you were not awarded for summer meals or childcare CACFP, you could apply for those in addition to your school meals grant. I am going to look it up really quickly to double check Bellingham, but let me see. I believe that you only have
I think
the
we just,
school meals.
yeah, and that's okay. That's probably all we'll apply for. I just want to make sure that I just saw some changes this year. I want to make sure we didn't do anything different with our prior application. Thank you.
Yes, great. Okay. Okay, so another question about, can you provide a little bit more information of who are the reviewers and how are they chosen to be a part of this? So our community reviewers are chosen because they have experience in farm to school and food systems. They're experts from all different sectors that are related to farm to school. So emergency food, we do make sure that there's no conflict of interest. That's part of our process. So at this time, like farmers who sell to schools, they wouldn't be a part. But think people who are consultants in the farm to school space or other service providers. So that's our process. We recruit for reviewers, and then based on their experience, we decide if they're a good fit for the grant program, and then they review your applications based on what their experience level is. So that could be size of school or geographic location, or school versus childcare versus summer meals, whether they have expertise in those different items. So that's our review process. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I did confirm that Bellingham has just the school meals grant in round 1. So if they wanted to apply for school and childcare, they could for those programs specifically. And since we have a few minutes, I did want to show you Eat Local First Washington Food and Farm Finder. So this is what I was talking about as a great resource to look for farms in your area that meet your needs. So if you're a large school district, you're going to want to check out the Wholesale Finder. This is a tool that we worked with Eat Local First to create, and lots of different filters you can use. You can think about your wholesaler type, distribution. So do you need direct delivery, or are you able to pick up? Who is within your delivery area? What are the specific products that you would like? Things such as food safety. So if you are purchasing meat, you would need it to be USDA inspected to incorporate into your child nutrition program. So you would check this box. What kinds of, if you have values-based procurement, what kinds of certifications and practices are you looking for? And you can even filter by the identity of the producer. So lots of different ways to think about this. If you are a smaller childcare center, I would recommend this Find Local Food. So that's just for consumers or those who are not purchasing wholesale. So this is smaller farms that might better fit your needs. If anyone wants to share a zip code and we can look up something, we could try it out right now if you want to type your zip code. Thank you, Josie. Okay, is that in Spokane? Let's narrow it down to frozen meat that has been USDA inspected. So as you can see, you have a lot of options, and you can just go dive deeper and take a look. Each farm or ranch has their own information, their own profile that they are able to update, and so you can look here and start a conversation via their contact information, see what they have. And again, this would be kind of your pre-procurement, just researching before you work through. And yeah, the more specific you can get in your application, the better. That really helps our reviewers to understand what your goals are. Awesome. Well, like I said, we are available for one-on-one calls or emails if you have any questions, and we'll be here for office hours on Wednesdays. So if you have any more questions, I'll stay on for a little bit, but thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to receiving your application.